TxStampin, Sharon, and I decided that it's just too cold outside. So in today's video, we're gonna bring the beach into the studio. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that I teach you a few tips and tricks. If you currently do not have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd be honored to help you with your Stampin' Up! Supply needs. I can help you place your order, or you can go directly to my website, and you can find that below the video. If you ever need to contact me, you can also find that link below the video as well. Hey, while you're down there, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I would love for you to do that. Go ahead and subscribe and then hit that notification bell. You'll be notified every time I upload a video or I go live on YouTube. Let's make some beachy cards. Oh, when I saw the fun sand and sea suite, I love the beach. If any of y'all have ever paid attention to my background behind me, what's hanging on my wall, it's a beautiful beach scene because I love the beach. And right now, I know it's January, and you know what? I'd rather be at the beach right now. I don't do cold well, and I would love to be on a nice warm beach somewhere. So this is my little way of getting away. I bought everything in the suite because I loved it all. And you know, when I first started playing with it, this big die right here, I was like, well, how did they do some of these other projects? I always look at what the artists do with a stamp set and in a suite. And so I kept looking at this one and I'm like, I'm going to make my own version of this one. And then my other ones, I used the big die, but I used them in different ways. So I'm going to share all that with you on today's video. So here is our Friends Are Like Seashells stamp set, and then the Seaside Shells dies. I did learn a lot about the dies, and what I figured out was, like, I wanted, let me show you. Let's see, where is it? Oh, this one. I wanted to cut out just this shell. It doesn't work that way. And let me show you what happens. I stamped it. I colored it the way I wanted it to. But when I cut it out, look what happened. I got all this extra stuff that I didn't want. So I learned very quickly that for the majority of these, you could just use your snips. Now, I decided I didn't want to cut this or this, so I would need the dies for those pieces. But I'm just saying, some of these pieces is just as easy to just use your snips and cut it out. So here's my version of the card. I loved how the little clamshell was open with the little pearls inside. And these are the opal rounds that I'm using for the pearls. So I have my pieces cut, and my white cardstock is 5.5 by 8.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. Then I have a piece of the Designer Series paper that measures 4 inches by 5 1/4. And then I have just a little piece cut of my sand color Designer Series paper. This one actually measures 3 inches because as I was looking at my paper, I think on this one I cut it at 4, but I'm not going to cut as much off. You just want to make sure that when you place this down on your card base, and then wherever you're going to cut, that you don't cut up too high and cut up above this. Does that make sense? Makes sense when I'm saying it, but I hope it makes sense. So I'm actually going to follow this line right here. Again with the snips. Nothing fancy. So there we go. You can hang on to this for something else. So we're going to add our adhesive. You know, it took me a while to learn how to use this, but I love it. It's a very strong adhesive. Now I want about 1/4 inch at the bottom and on my sides, 1/4 inch, about 1/8 inch, I'm sorry. And then we're going to place this here, double checking everything to make sure. So yeah, we're good to go. So now going to add my adhesive. And when I added it, I wanted to see this side right here and how far I am from the top. Because again, before I lay it down, I want to make sure that I'm lined up on the right side. There we go. Pretty quick, huh? So I have a piece of white cardstock, and I'm using my paper piercing mat. I also decided that I wanted to use these fun little stickers that comes in the suite, and I think I'm going to use this one. And I'm just going to put it right here, little shell on the beach. Love it, love it. So now I'm going to do my stamping, and I'm using Flirty Flamingo. And I'm going to stamp my seashell. And then what I loved is there is a second image to do my coloring for me. And I'm just going to stamp that. I'm going to stamp off. I'm going to turn it around, line it up in here. And then it just gives my shell just a little subtle color. Quick and easy, huh? Next, I'm going to use So Saffron in my big shell. And then I'm going to use Seaside Spray for my little clam. Come on. And to do the clam, I actually stamped once, inked it up, turned it over, overlapped it, and stamped again. Okay. I decided I wanted to use this little piece instead of the one that Stampin' Up had in their example, and I'm using Misty Moonlight, a little bit darker of a blue, but still goes very well with my water. And I'm just going to stamp a few. And then I'm going to cut all of this out. Before we assemble, I am going to stamp my happy birthday. I used the stitched rectangle dies on all of 3 of the cards that I'm going to show you. And I don't know, it just made a very nice clean layer. I'm using Calypso Coral. I like to do my stamping and then let that make sure it's good and dry before I go to pick it up and flip it over. So now we have all of our pieces, and now we can decide how we want our pieces to be on the card. I'm going to add some adhesive to the back, and we're going to lay that right there. And then this one, we're going to come in, about right there. And the little clam, I closed it, I kind of bent it a little bit. And then I put adhesive on one side. And then I put a dimensional on the other so that it appears to be open. So cute, right? So just pops up just a little bit. Makes it look like it's open. And then we're going to add our sentiment with some dimensionals. Happy birthday. And to finish off this card, we're going to get some of the opal rounds. Super cute. I can't wait to show you my other cards because they're totally different. So there is a pearlescent paper that is also in that suite. Look how gorgeous. Look how simple. All I did was cut this big piece out, cut a piece of the designer series paper, and I cut it to the size of my card front because if you'll notice, this die is really big. And what I did too is I put dimensionals underneath my shells, and then I stuck everything else down with the liquid glue. Very different. Something else I want to point out, when you stamp on this pearlescent specialty paper, this does not dry right away. I learned that the hard way. So I opted, instead of waiting, because I'm not patient, I stamped and then I embossed with just clear embossing powder. And that way it sealed that ink for me and I didn't have to worry about it smearing. Okay, how about this card? So I stamped all my pieces and cut them out like I did this card. And I embossed my layer with the embossing folder. And then I laid these on top. And I just had the white fronds and the seaweed and stuff behind it. But super cute. 3 great birthday cards that I hope the recipient loves when they get them. And I have several people in mind because they love the beach like I do. Happy stamping, y'all!